Okay, so for today, we'll be doing piercing points and lines of intersection. No? And let me just prepare this. No? Mm, Okay, nakikita naman no, yung screen. Okay, thank you. So first is, let's go with piercing points muna. No? So this is piercing points and let me bring in my compass. Okay, so piercing point is when a line intersects a plane. No? So whenever you have a plane segment, and if a line intersects it, then there should be only one point where the that is common to both the line and the plane, no? And we call that point as your piercing point. Okay? So try to imagine just a paper, no? Kunwari may papel kayo and try to skewer it with your kunwari pencil or any parang sharp line, no? Then you will notice that the piercing point is where you punch a hole in that piece of paper. Okay? So ganun natin in-imagine ang piercing point. So dito, if you look at it, we have one line, no? Itong line 1, 2, and we have plane ABC. Tapos, you'll notice na si line 1, 2 will pierce your plane ABC somewhere dito, no? So if I could just, uh, parang somewhere dito siya, no? Tama? So it makes sense na somewhere dito yung piercing point. But given these two views, hindi pa natin sure kung alin talaga dyan yung magiging piercing point na. Tama? So what we need to do is, there are actually two methods to do this. No? And yeah, hirapan ako mag- First, turn off Windows 8. 8 kung yung nagpapalag. Wait lang pala sa... Hmm, yeah, I think that should be okay now. Sorry, sorry for the delay class. Uh, Let me erase this. Okay? So, the intuitive thing to do, no, kung if you just try to imagine it in space is, if we try to look at the edge view of the plane, then for sure, if the line intersects the plane, makikita natin yung intersection ng dalawa and we could spot the piercing point. No? So, for example, itong ABC na to, if we were to show it in its edge view, mga ganyan, naka-edge view si ABC, then if the line truly intersects this plane ABC such that it produces a piercing point, then therefore makikita natin siya something like pag ganyan, no? And where these two apparent lines intersect, this is what we call as your piercing point. Tama, no? It makes sense. Parang if you just try to visualize it. Hmm, wala yung participants. So hopefully that makes sense. No? So let's try to first do that technique. So imagine natin or try natin i-project si plane ABC as an edge view. Okay, so to do that, let's project this as an edge view now. So, and by the way, sagutin mo natin. The intersection of a line and a plane is a point, and which is also known as your piercing point. Okay, so let's determine the piercing point of the given line and plane, and let's first do the first technique now, wherein papakita natin siya in its edge view. So notice how itong given na to is set up such that malaki yung space natin dito. No? So again, you always want to work with the space that you're given. So if we were to work, pwede naman, di ba? You can do edge views pababa, pero if you can notice, wala namang space dito. So it's more appropriate if we work towards this direction. Okay? So, ano yung kailangan natin para kapag-produce ng edge view? Nalala niyo ba? To produce an edge view, you just need one true length. No? Kasi if you project the true length in its point view, automatic, if that true length is part of the plane, then the entire plane will become an edge view. Tama? So if you look at this, AC is conveniently parallel to the plane. Therefore, automatic, itong AC dito is true length na agad. So this is our true length now, and we can just project it in its point view. So if we do this, so let's do yan. Project natin siya. Oh, hindi ako nakasya. Okay. Okay. And gawa lang tayo ng reference plane, and let's just gawin kong ibang kulay no, para tandaan natin. Okay, so this is our reference plane, and let's just say ARP ito, no? ARP, and I think we only need one, tama, to create the edge view. One additional view lang naman, so no need to label it as ARP1. This is AHRP. Okay, so we have this. Tapos, kunin natin compass natin, and we'll just do distances. No? Oh, balik. Let's do distances. So this is our plane, no? And hopefully by now, parang sobrang sanay na kayo mag-copy ng distances. No? So again, it's 2 views away. So we're working in ARP, so 2 views away is 1, 2, and so therefore we'll measure from this point. And dapat kinonect na natin ito, no? Para mas madali measure ng mga distances. Okay? Let's do that. So I do apologize kasi medyo mas mabagal ako than the usual pace. Ngayon dahil lang dito sa injury. But in any case, kaya naman natin ito. Okay, so we have this one. So, gagawin natin is copy na natin yung distances natin. So let's transfer, ano bang importante dito? All the lines actually. So let's do 1, 2 muna. One. Tapos si ilan. So si 1 muna. 1 is complete here. And you can do this along with me, class, since mabagal ako ngayon. Hindi ko kaya nyo ako sundan while I'm actually doing it. Okay, so that's point 1. Then we do point 2. Point 2 is this one. Copy natin siya. Oh, tama ba? Dito. Then, dapat Ipat natin dito. 1, 2. Iba lang natin 1 and 2. Then let's do A, B, and C, no? So A muna. A, C, A. And since AC is the true length here, then automatic dapat point fusion dito. No? So A and C should lie on the same point. No? So this is AC, point AC. But again, di ba, sabi natin pagka when we're labeling points, we always place the nearer point as the leading label. No? So in this case, since mas malapit si C, therefore this is CA as opposed to AC. No? So that's CA. And last point na natin is actually si point B. No? Let's connect everything. So again, ABC will look like a plane, a line I mean, so it's edge view. And your, label this PB, no, para mas, okay. And if I do this, then I have found my piercing point. And let's just say, since isa lang naman ang piercing point, no need to label kung anin siya. Pero sometimes, lalo na pagka mas marami kayong piercing points na hinahanap, you need to label it as piercing point 1, piercing point 2, etc. etc. So in this case, isa lang naman siya. Pwedeng wala na itong piercing point 1 o pwedeng PP lang. Okay? So that's piercing point 1. Tapos, po-project na natin to complete all the views. No? So if you look at it, ito siya. And again, si piercing point is a common point. No? So it's a point that lies within that is part of the line, and also it is also part of the plane. But if you look at it, mahirap mahanap siya sa plane, no? Kasi this is an entire plane, so the piercing, if I draw a line, kunwari, if I project it back, the piercing point for, if I use the plane as the basis, no? Pwede siyang dito, dito, dito. So, medyo mahirap mahanap, di ba? So, mas magandang basis is, we look for it along the line. Kasi si line, isa lang naman yung location niya. Kasi if you project this back, ito lang naman yung only possible na location na. Okay, so this is now, if you intersect it with the given line, which is 1, 2, ito na yung piercing point natin. Okay, so let's label this as piercing point. Tapos, finalize na natin using correct visibility. So, kasi if you look at the piercing point, no, so it should be, whenever you have a piercing point, this point actually delineates the visibility of the line. No? So if it passes through the piercing point, if it's hidden first, then passing to the piercing point, magiging visible sana siya. And vice versa, no? Kung visible siya, if it passes to the piercing point, mag-alternate naman yung visibility niya. Magiging hidden naman siyang kapanan. Okay? So first, establish muna natin kung itong point na to, is it above the line or is it is this line above the plane or is it below the plane? Okay, so pwede natin i-draw into segments. No? So for example, itong segment na to and this segment, hindi kasi natin alam kung alin dyan ang nasa taas. No? Tama? So if we say that the pink line is above the plane, then after the piercing point, when it passes to the piercing point here, then dapat itong green line should be below the plane. Tama? Or natatabunan siya ng plane. That makes sense, no? So, establish natin kung alin dyan yung nasa taas. So, if we establish na nasa taas yung isa, then automatic yung kabila nasa baba naman. Okay? So, we erase that. So, how do we do that? It's actually simple, no? We just take a test point. So, we can do this one. or we can do this one. Okay? Ang gagawin natin is from these intersections, itong intersection ng line with one of the given edges, yun yung gagamitin natin as test points to determine kung nasa taas ba yung line o nasa taas yung plane. Okay, so if you look at this test point, no, so actually we are comparing here line 1 pp. So parang pino-compare natin si line 1 pp versus line AC. Ganun. Kung ito yung test point natin. So let's try this test point first. No? So itong test point na to, gusto natin malaman sinong nasa taas, si AC ba or si line 1 pp. 1 pp meaning itong segment na to. No? Ito from here to here. So yan lang muna yung test natin. Okay? So if I draw a projection line, so ito, so this is actually the same projection line. Titingnan natin kung sino yung unang tatamaan. Okay? So if you look at it, unang tinamaan si line 1 pp. Tama? This is line 1 pp. Una siyang tinamaan before natamaan si line AC, which is appearing as a point here. Tama? So, ibig sabihin, since una siyang natamaan, it is closer to the reference plane. And if you notice, kung closer ka sa reference plane, then therefore, ikaw yung dapat mas visible as opposed to further objects from the reference plane, sila yung nasa likod. Tama? So, it makes sense na dapat, if I were to draw this, ito should be a solid line to indicate na nasa taas siya. Tama? Then automatic, itong nasa, itong from PP to point 2, siya na dapat yung, yung hidden line, which is signified by a broken line. So, if I were to draw this, magiging broken line siya na ganyan. Okay? Or I can just follow the given broken line. So meron ng given, kunin ko na lang. So, ibig sabihin dito, from 1 to PP, siya yung nasa taas. After the piercing point, nasa likod na siya. So that's why it's a hidden line. And usually pala class, when we try to signify our piercing point, no, lalagyan natin na siyang circle ng ganyan para mas kita siya ng checker or ng audience natin kung sino man nag-review sa ating engineering drawing. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. No? So let's try again. Try naman natin what if hindi ito yung test point na ginamit natin. No? So let's just try. Imagine natin na ito naman yung test point na ginamit natin. So it doesn't really matter no, kung ano yung test point ginamit natin. It should give you the same result. So let's just try itong test point na to yung ginamit natin. This particular. So if that's the case, then instead of 1 pp versus AC, ang tinitingnan natin dito, kino-compare is actually PP2 versus, and that's PP2 meaning from this point to this point, this line segment here, PP2 versus itong line BC. Okay? So again, pagka nagko-compare tayo ng class, pagka nagte-test tayo, it's always line versus line, no? Tapos from there, makakapag-imagine na tayo kung alin yung nasa taas, yung plane ba or yung line. Okay? So again, ito, tingnan natin kung alin yung nasa taas. Is it line BC or line PP2? Okay, so if we draw a projection line, you'll notice that una niyang tinamaan si line BC, no? Or si plane ABC. Therefore, si plane or si line BC yung nasa taas. Kasi late na tamaan si 1-2, meaning nasa likod si 1-2. It's further from the reference plane. So that means that dapat makes sense na itong part na to of the plane dito, yung buong plane na to, should be visible. Tapos, yung line natin should be the hidden line. Okay? And we made the same conclusion as we did earlier. No? So dapat ito should be a broken line. Tapos, from here to here, this now becomes a solid line. Okay? Buksan ko pala chat. Baka may mga nagtanong. Wala pa naman nagtanong. So, malinaw ba yan? Nasusundan naman, no? So, thank you for the feedback. Lawrence, hindi ba ba? Meron namang nag-thumbs up. So thank you sa mga nag-thumbs up. No? So okay tayo dito. So let's try to do it one more time. No? Let's try to do it dito naman sa baba. So independent yung result na makukuha natin from the top view versus dito sa result sa bottom view. So for example, if you want to take the visibility, the correct visibility of this plane, it has nothing to do with with whatever we concluded dito. No? So magkaiba siya. So dito ulitin natin yung steps again. So let's do it again. So first project down muna natin si. So this is our piercing point. Now, so let's test, no? So we can do this one or this one. So let's just do this point right here, no? So we are comparing AB versus 1PT. So if you notice, if you project it down upwards, unang tinamaan si line AB, which is this line right here. So since una tinamaan si line AB, therefore si AB is on top of line 1, 2. Therefore si 1, 2 dapat hidden line to. So it's hidden line up to here and past this piercing point, dapat solid line na siya. Okay? So if we finalize the answer, so let's just do it. See lower na positive naman ako. So let's just finalize the answer. So ito, this should be a solid line. This should be broken. Tapos itong piercing point, we will go this way. PT. Tapos ito, this one. Hindi ko na i-label yung points, no? Pero definitely pag pinalilas nyo siya, dapat nililabel nyo yung points. Siguro pwede ito. Tapos ito, final answer, PVP. Tapos ang na-conclude natin is, ito yung nasa taas. No? Tama? So this is solid. Tapos dito, broken lang siya. Okay. Okay ba yan? Malinaw yan? So that's the first technique, no? If we use the edge view method. So it's simple lang naman siya. Lalo na pagka may convenient ka na edge, no, that is already roulette. Pero kahit wala namang edge na yun, you only need one additional view to create the edge view, no? So if you do this technique, then you just need one additional view para magawa tong piercing point. And from the piercing point, you can now check for correct visibility. Okay? Now, what happens, pero in some cases, kunwari, sabi ng problem, you are not allowed to create a additional view, then you can still find the piercing point, no? And we call this as the special cutting plane method. So ang theory behind this, I've explained it in the modules. So just try to look at the modules if you're interested bakit siya nag-work. Pero in this particular session, diretso pakita ko lang kung paano. Okay? So it's actually very interesting kung bakit nag-work yung method na to. So I highly encourage na you watch the video and siguro para mas in case na makalimutan nyo yung exact method, no, if you know the theory behind it, baka makatulong siya para maalala nyo kung bakit siya nag-work. Okay? Or I mean, kung ano yung specific steps needed to make the method work. Okay, so let's do so let me piece of password. So if we have this one, so yung natin, notice na wala tayong area for additional view. No? So without an additional view, we can still determine the piercing point. So what we need to do is do different colored lines para mas visual, mas makita nyo. So what I'll need to do is, you take your line, tapos kunin natin yung apparent intersections nila with the plane. So that's this point right here and this point right here. Tama? So that's where it has an parang overlap kumbaga. So ito, We just bring it downwards. Tapos, hanapin natin kung nasaan siya nagbibilang up. So, it's along XY. Therefore, I'll bring it up to XY. XY, which is this. Okay. So, let me just label this as may X, Y, Z na kasi. So, let's do V and W na lang. Let's say V to. Although, hindi na necessary label siya. No? For the purpose of this demonstration, label ko siya para mas masundan. Okay, so that's point V. Tapos dito, this is along YZ. So, let's project it downwards hanggang YZ. Oops, sorry. YZ. Hanggang baba pa pa. YZ. So, dito dapat. So, that's V. Mali pala. U na lang po. U. This should be U. Oh, this should be U. And this should be B. Okay? The U and B. Ano gagawin natin is, we just connect U and B. And where it intersects your line, that is actually the piercing point. So, di hamak mas madali itong method na to. Mas madali itong method na to mas compared to this one where we do additional views pa dito, automatic, nahanap na natin yung piercing point. Tapos pwedeng project upwards na natin. Okay, so if we project it upwards, so, saan siya tumama? That is the piercing point. So, this is a piercing point. This is also the piercing point. Now, ang maganda din sa method na to, since you already did projection lines here and here, ito na rin yung gagamitin nyo for testing correct visibility. Tama? So, if you do, let's test the correct visibility of this one. So, that's, we're comparing line 3 PP versus line XY. Let's project it downwards. Sino yung unang tatamaan? It's line XY. Tama? Kasi if you project this downwards, project downward pa natin. Ano yan? Una niyang tatamaan si XY before it touches line 3 PP. Okay? Therefore, dapat in this particular view, si XY yung nasa taas. So, because si XY yung nasa taas, therefore si plane yung nasa taas dito, and this is hidden line, and dito yung broken line natin. So, if we do the final answer, it should be, let's do white. So, this is the piercing point. Tapos, i-label it with a circle para mas malinaw. Tapos, broken line dito. That's our piercing point. Okay? And pwede rin, and by the way, class, hindi na matter, no? If you started from the top or sa bottom, doesn't really matter. It should give you the same results, no? And I can probably show you. So let's use a different color, no? Like pink. So if you do pink, ito. So say for example, dito tayo nag-start. So ang apparent intersection ng line 3-4 with XYZ is this test point here, this test point here. And let's just, nabusan ako ng letters. So let's do S and T. Sorry, S and T. So if we do S, so project upwards natin, and this is along XY, therefore hanggang dito siya, no? This is XY. Tapos let's do ito, S and T, and this is along XZ. Diba? So XZ is this line right here. And notice, if we connect this, it intersects at the same piercing point. No? So it doesn't really matter kung saan kayo magsa-start. So pwede sa taas, project nyo downwards, tapos get the intersection point to get the piercing point. O pwede rin galing sa baba. It still gives you the same piercing point. Lawrence, sa plate po ba, kapag hindi po visible, gagawa na lang po ng broken lines? Yes, gagawa ka ng broken lines. Basta whenever a line is, ang tawag natin doon is a hidden line. Kung hidden line, to signify that it is a hidden line, you always do broken lines. Okay? So, saan tayo? So, kung ipa-finalize na natin yung answer, Medyo nagkamali ako. Kaya pala. So, let's do, dito naman, check natin. Let's check visibility nitong piercing, itong 3-4, no? So, let's do ito. Let's do comparing XZ and 3, itong 4 PP. If you project it outwards, unang tinamaan si line 4 PP. Tama? Kasi si XZ, nandito pa si XZ. So, ibig sabihin, dapat si ito should be solid. Tapos ito yung broken line. Okay? Tapos, so that is my final answer in class. And you can double check. No? So, example, ito S. If it's, kung hidden talaga si 3PP dito, and therefore, unang tatamaan dapat si XY. And let's check. Unang tinamaan si XY before it touches itong 3PP. Tama? So, yan. So, piecing points is actually quite easy, no? Lalo na pagka ang ginamit yung using special cutting plane method. But sometimes, kung it is necessary sa problem na ipagawa yung edge view, then you can also do edge view method, no, to show the piercing point. Okay tayo? Okay? Walang ano sa piercing point? Malinaw naman, no? Okay. Thank you for the feedback, guys. So we can now proceed to lines of intersection when we have, I don't know, two planes and they are intersecting one another. Okay? So when you have two planes that intersect one another, the intersection of two planes is actually a line. No? Is a line. It makes sense, no? Kasi kung if a line intersects a plane at exactly one point lang, and a plane intersecting another plane should be a line of intersection. So we call that as the line of intersection, or simply just LOI. Okay. Okay. So let's determine the LOI of the given line and plane in this part. So dito, we use again the method of finding piercing points. Kasi the concept is, if you have a line intersecting another, a plane intersecting another plane. So let me just roughly draw. So for example, wait lang ba? So for example lang, meron tayong plane. Hopefully, na-imagine ito. So I'll just draw a rough 3D plane. Kunwari, na-imagine nyo ba yung plane na to? So just imagine, parang may dalawang Mr. Chips. No? Tapos nag-intersect sila dito. Tama? So if I draw the broken line, dapat na check. Na-imagine ba? So I'll remove the broken line. So parang hindi ko mas i-imagine siya. So na-imagine naman nung in space kung anong itsura nito. So if you think about it, this is actually our LOI. Ito yung LOI natin. Okay? So what you notice about the LOI here is actually, itong point na to, this is actually a piercing point. So this is as if itong line na to, so if we label this as XY, no? This line XY is actually intersecting, if we label this as ABC, this line XY is intersecting plane ABC. So piercing point yun. Tapos, ito naman, this is also a piercing point. No? We can imagine that this is line AB intersecting or piercing plane XY, this is XYZ. Parang ganyan. So, if that's the case, then for us to find the LOI, we just need to find two piercing points. And if we connect those two piercing points, then we have effectively found our LOI. Tama? No? Does that make sense? So the difficulty now is, when you have something like this, no, hindi kasi natin alam kung aling line yung nag-create ng LOI. No? So, say for example, if I take this same planes, no? So for example, pwede kasi nga mangyari is, if I have something that looks like this, tapos, meron akong plane, it looks like this. Parang ganun. Hopefully, you imagine this in space, no? So, ang nangyari dito is itong Mr. Chips na to, itong ABC na plane, is being parang pierced by XYZ. Okay? So, na-imagine nyo siya na parang si itong point tip ng Y, siya yung parang pierce ng plane natin. Tapos dito yung intersection. Tama? We can have something that looks like this as well, no? And in this case, actually, yung two lines natin comes from the same plane, no? So, itong XY pierces at this piercing point. Let's call it piercing point 1. And dito rin piercing point 1, piercing point 2. Tapos itong YZ din, it pierces ABC at this piercing point 2 right here. Tama? So kumbaga, if given only ito, kung given lang tayo ng two overlapping planes, no, hindi natin sure kung alin talaga yung nagpo-produce na piercing point dyan. So we have to check every line. Okay? So yun yung challenge sa finding LOI using this method, no? Kasi we're not sure, therefore we need to check all. And if we check every line, that's if this is two three-sided lines, no? So we have to check 6 lines, no? So yun. Well, there's no other way to go about it. Kailangan talaga i-check natin yung all 6 lines. Okay? So to illustrate my point, no? So for example, kunwari lang ang nakuha natin is ito yung kunwari lang, ito yung nakuha natin, no? So this is like saying na si 1, 2, 3, nagpe-pair siya ng ganyan. Tama? Does that make sense? Pero we can also equally have something that looks like this, no? So kunwari dito naman, dito and dito. So something like ito at ito. So ito naman, this is something that looks like parang ganyan. So ito, itong ganitong orientation, kung 1, 3, tsaka ABC yung pili natin, this is something that looks like this, na parang nag-intersect yung dalawang Mr. Chips. So notice na same figure, different yung, different yung parang imagination. Simply by what is the parang given LOI. Kung nagbago yung LOI, nagbago din yung parang imagination natin sa object. So it can look like this, or yung kanina, yung ginawa natin, yung nakaganyan siya, it can look like something like this. Tama? So, that's a challenge and let's try to do that. So, let's try to do this. No? We have plane ABC. So, anong gusto nyo unahin? So, there is no parang quick way to do this. No? We need to check all. So, let's just start 1, 2 siguro tayo mag-start. Tapos, let's go around and back. Let's do 1, 2. And use a different color na. 1, 2. So, and itong, so I'm checking if 1, 2 pierces ABC. So, for that, I need to do this one. Tapos ito, this is part of AC. Therefore, dito siya. And dito madalas nagkakamali yung mga estudyante class kasi they forget kung ano yung sinecheck nila. So minsan, ang ginagawa nila is pinoproject nila to, tapos nakalimutan nila na sinecheck pala nila si 1, 2 if it pierces ABC. So minsan, ang ginagawa nila, nung nag-project sila, hanggang dito sa 1, 2, dito yung parang pinoject nilang point. When in fact, dapat dito ka nag-project. So yun yung dapat na tandaan nyo parati. Always remember that you are checking if a line pierces a plane. So, gagamitin natin yung concepts na natutunan natin dito. Okay? So, parang ulit-ulit lang natin siyang gagamitin until we find 2 piercing points. Okay? So, just be mindful of that when you're doing this kinds of parang executions. So, again, we're checking 1, 2 muna. If 1, 2 has a piercing point with ABC. Okay? So, if I check it, okay, it's along AC, therefore dito siya. Tapos si 1, 2, it's along BC. Tama? So this should be right here. Now if I check, and sobrang sinuwerte tayo lang kasi si 1, 2, first line na chinek natin, already has a piercing point. Okay? So check naman natin si So let's just go round and round. So kung na-check na natin si 1, 2, check naman natin dito si BC. Tama? So let's check BC. So we are checking if BC has a piercing point and siguro project ko na po ito. Let's label this as PP1. This is PP1. Okay? Tapos, let's check BC. No? Kung BC, if it pierces your line 1 to 3. And we can recycle this projection line, no? Kasi this is the same projection line. Iba lang yung, kumbaga, kung saan tayo titigil. Since we are checking now if BC intersects 1, 2, then this is along 1, 2 na. So instead of dito sa BC, sa 1, 2 tayo titigil, which is this one. Tama? Tapos ito naman, project it downwards. This is BC along 1, 3. Therefore, hanggang 1, 3 tayo titigil dito. And if you check BC and 1, 3, which is this one, and nasa ano? BC. Ito diba? If we combine that, parang mali. Oh, sorry. Dito pala. Kasi it's along 1, 2. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Sorry. 1, 2, and 1, 3. So that's 1, 2, 1, 3. So dapat ito, 1, 3, 1, 2. And notice, hindi niya in-intersect si line BC. Line BC is this line right here. Tama? So if that's the case, so meaning si line BC does not have a piercing point with plane 1, 2, 3. Tama? Kasi ito siya, hindi niya na-intersect si BC. So we can proceed with the next line. So next line natin is ikot lang tayo. So ito usually yung ginagawa ko ng class, no? So I'll just check, parang magka-clockwise na ako direction. So that's 1, 2, BC. Next naman ko is itong 1, 3. Actually, you don't have to check the lines that are outside, no? So mababawasan yung number of lines na i-check nyo. Kasi ito, obviously, hindi na siya magkakaroon ng piercing point, no? Kasi wala naman siyang overlap with the plane. Tama? Itong 2, 3. And similarly, itong si BC, AB, hindi rin, imposible rin. So actually, 4 lines lang i-check, no? As opposed to 6. Okay? So let's go clockwise. Dito na tayo. Ito naman, check natin si line 1, 3. Let's check if line 1, 3 has an intersection or a piercing point with plane ABC. That's, we can recycle points also. This is, we're checking 1, 3. So this should be along line BC. So BC is this one. Tapos next, project it downwards. We are checking if line 1, 3 has an intersection with plane ABC. Therefore, AC dapat natin siya project. So that's AC, projected downwards, which is this one. Okay. Now let's connect the 2 points. Ito. So this is where it gets confusing, class, no? Kasi baka mali yung mga kinonect yung points. So just be mindful kung ano yung chine-check mo. Always remind yourself na you are checking a line if it has a piercing point with the plane. So I'm constantly reminding myself na si 1, 3, I'm checking 1, 3 if it is it has a piercing point with plane ABC. So that's why I remember na ito, this is AC, dito, tapos dito, BC dapat, muna dito. Okay? And now, I can see that it actually intersects. So itong na-create ko na line, it intersects with the line 1, 3, which is the line that I was checking. So therefore, ito, this is now a piercing point. Piercing point 2. Okay? Tapos pwede ko siya i-project papunta sa 1, 3. This is now piercing point 2. Okay? And again, hindi nag-matter, class, no? If we, because what I did here, dito ako sa taas, nag-manipulate no, or nag-start, tapos pinroject ko downwards. Pwede din naman nasa baba kayo nag-evaluate, tapos project it upwards. Doesn't really matter. You should find the same piercing point. Okay? Since nahanap na natin, then we can do our final answer. So, let me darken this. Let's do PP1. So, this is PP2. PP1. Tapos, PP2. Now, ito na yung issue, no? Yung correct visibility. paano natin siya ma-check? So, actually, same lang yung method, no? Pero ang maganda dito sa ano no, sa dito sa itong planes kasi kaya niyo gamitin actually yung imagination mo. Once you find out one of the lines, then you can actually just imagine it. Pero kung kunwari nahihirapan talaga kayo, imagine siya in 3D space, pwede naman yung approach niyo is parang methodical, no? Yung gagamitin niyo yung mga test points natin. Okay? Ah, may tanong si Lawrence. Lawrence, pwede pong paulit kung paano po malalaman kung saan siya i-connect yung lines sa kabilang RP? Okay. O, ulitin lang natin, no? So, let's say, ibabaan ko lang kasi. I'll just do another. So, let's say, ulitin natin. So, kunwari, Lawrence, we always check for lines versus a plane. So, for example, itong 1-3, gusto natin i-check if si 1-3 has a piercing point with plane ABC. So, gagawin ko naman sa baba, no, para just to show you that it doesn't really matter kung sa taas or sa baba. For example, ito. So, ito si 1-3. If I'm checking if it has a piercing point with ABC, I check this parang ano, di ba? Yung parang test points na to. So, this is actually the parang apparent intersection in 1-3 with the plane ABC, which is this one and this one. Tama? Now, what I do is, since I'm isolating this, so I'm imagining it as if ito lang, 1-3 siya and ABC. So, kumbaga, imagine ko na hindi nag-exist tong si 2-3 and si 1-2. So, I'll just be purely checking if si 1-3 ba has an intersection point with ABC. So, yun yung ano, no, challenge sa inyo class, no? Kasi in paper, hindi magulo siya, no? Kasi ang daming lines na ang daming lines on the paper which can cause the confusion. So, the challenge is to isolate it in your head. So ako, in-isolate ko siya na I'm imagining 1-3 lang versus ABC. So since 1-3 and ABC lang to, therefore, itong point na to, pag pinroject ko pataas, I'm just protecting it sa BC. Tama? Dito sa BC. Okay? Kasi ito naman, 1-3 and ABC, which is along AB dapat. So I'll project it papunta sa AB. Dito. So if I connect this, ganyan, then it has an intersection point with 1-3. Again, 1-3 lang, no? In-isolate natin siya. So check natin, which is the piercing point. Now, if I show my original answer, no? Notice how it appears in the same piercing point, no? So, which just shows you na hindi nagmamatter kung sa taas or sa baba ka na nag-ooperate. Okay? Okay na ba yun? So, it's all about parang isolating lines, no? We need to isolate lines. And once you isolate lines, you'll just do it as if ganito lang ginagawa niyo. Itong finding piercing points. But of course, it's easier said than done, okay? Because once you are actually doing it, sobrang dami ng lines, tas nalilito ka na kung saan ba galing to projection point na to? Ano bang hinahanap ko dito? Parang ganun. So, even me, kung ginagawa ko to, na nalilito din ako minsan. Kahit kanina, no, nung pinoproject ko, minsan nalito ako sa saan ko ba pinroject yung line na yun. So, siguro it helps if you practice, no? If you do this a bunch of times, magiging second nature na sa inyo. Okay? Hope that clarifies things na. So, pwedeng iburahin ko na itong extra na ginawa ko. So, yeah. Okay? So now, let's do the the correct visibility naman. So we are checking if alin yung lines na on top, no. So and thankfully, since meron na tayong mga ganito, yung projection lines, pwedeng gamitin natin siya to check the which lines are on top, no. Okay? So eto, if you do this, project it downwards, I'm checking between 1, 2, and AC. So, I want to check kung alin sa kanila yung nasa taas. So, 1, 2, and AC or 1 PP1. Pero para mas simplify, no, I'll just say 1, 2. Okay? Pero technically, 1 PP1 yung sinecheck ko. Ito, line segment na to. Okay? So, let's just say 1, 2, and AC. So, 1, 2, and AC, projected downwards, and una tinamaan si AC. Therefore, si AC yung nasa taas, So this should be solid. Okay? Now, ito class, it depends kung gaano kagaling yung parang imagination mo. So with this given line, I can now imagine kung ano yung orientation niya in space. Because I know this is a solid line, there is only one way to imagine this, no? To imagine this. Parang if this is solid, dapat ito yung isa pang solid. So this is just because I can imagine it in space, no? Parang kung solid to dito, therefore parang itong plane na to, plane 1, 2, 3, is actually going inside, and therefore ito dapat ano pala to? Hidden line to. So I can imagine na ito, kung solid to, ito pa lang yung nakuha ko, no, na information. I know na dahil solid siya, dapat ito buo to. Tapos parang pumapasok siya. It's as if parang ganito siya. Okay? So, what? So hopefully some of you who, and this is, I don't know, one of the siguro nuances ng ES1 class, no? Kasi it all depends on kung gaano, may certain people kasi na they have what we call as a parang 3D mind, no? Yun yung sinasabi sa ES1. Kung may 3D mind ka, parang given a certain objects, parang kayang-kaya na ng mga students na yun na imagine in space kung ano yung orientation ng mga objects na yun. So there are certain games that can help you. Meron akong app na nahanap dati na parang nagro-rotate siya ng objects in space. I'll try to find the name of the app, no? And if you play it long enough, parang napapractice yung parang spatial awareness, no? Yung kumbaga yung awareness yung in space. Okay? So maybe it could help some of you kung kunwari hindi nyo talaga ma-imagine siya in space. If you play that game long enough, baka ma-develop yung ano. No? And this is nothing against you guys, no? Parang for those that can't imagine it, no? Kasi paano ba? It's how our brains are wired, no? So it directly is influenced by yung experience natin with the real world, no? Kung paano natin in-experience yung real world. Some of us have experienced the real world in a certain manner that gives us a certain advantage when it comes to ES1. So, kumbaga, and I always say this to students, no? Especially in ES1. Kung nahihirapan kayo sa ES1, kumbaga, it's not your fault. Dahil lang yan sa mga experiences na ano nyo, which is not your fault on your own, no? Dahil lang sa experiences nyo, kaya kayo either nahirapan or nadadalian sa ES1. Okay, so don't feel bad if at the start medyo parang iffy kayo sa ano, no, sa pag-imagine in 3D space, lalo na pag nag-proceed na tayo dun sa multi-view projections, no? Doon yung matetest talaga yung imagination nyo when it comes to spatial awareness, no? So yun, you just need a little bit of practice, and again, I highly encourage that particular app game, no? It's a geometry game. I forgot the name, but I'll search for it, tapos i-send ko sa inyo. It's a mobile app game. I think it's available both sa Apple tsaka sa Android. So pwede nyo siyang i-play the game a few times, tapos sana ma-develop yung parang spatial awareness. Okay? So anyway, eto, yung sinabi ko sa inyo, yung method na tinuro ko, I just look for one line, and from that same line, if you have strong enough parang spatial awareness, makikita nyo na kung ano yung nagme-make sense na parang broken and hidden lines. Okay? Now, if you don't imagine it readily, no? So I'll teach you another technique. So ito siya. So ito yung second technique natin. So again, ito nakuha na natin siya through checking through the test point, no? So what you can do is, if you can't imagine it, then you can just check all of the other test points. So you can check this one, 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 etc. etc. Pwedeng ganun yung gawin nyo, no? Just look at the projection line, check kung alin yung nasa taas, alin yung nasa baba, then decide on that way, using that method. Tapos you can decide kung alin yung broken and alin yung hidden. Okay? Pero that method actually takes a considerable amount of time, no? And minsan nagkakamali tayo dahil mas maraming steps, maraming chance na magkamali, no? So I'll teach you another method na it doesn't require that you imagine it, pero it only requires that you find one. So once you found this line, madali na lang siya. So itong method na to, so what you do is you start with this point, kunwari ito, tapos you do uh, alternating hidden and solid lines. So for example, I start with solid. Whenever you encounter an intersection point, an apparent intersection point or a piercing point, mag-change visibility tayo. Okay? So we start with solid. Therefore, i-trace ko yun. Kung solid to, therefore hidden dito, hidden, solid, alternate tayo, intersection point to, so change visibility again. Hidden dito. Tapos, nag-meet tayo ng apparent intersection point, so change visibility again. So this is solid. We meet a piercing point, change visibility again. So ito ay hidden. So yun. So pwedeng ganun na method, no? So alternating lang kayo. Whenever, ang rules lang is, kung nag-encounter ka ng parang apparent intersection point, or you can say a change of direction, kumbaga. Kung nag-encounter ka ng change of direction, change ka ng visibility. Encounter ka ng piercing point, change visibility again. Tapos ito, change direction, change visibility, direction change visibility, so on and so forth. Hopefully, yung ganyang method, mas madali sa inyo, no? What do you think? Mas madali ba yan? Yung alternating method? Okay po, most students, nung tinuro ko yung method na yon, parang sobrang, yun na yung ginagamit nila madalas. Kasi parang mas madali siya i-imagine. No? I just need one line, tapos alternating na lang ako. I just like to use the parang imagination na method. No? So I just look at the objects. Once I find the line, I try to look at what makes sense. Tapos from there, yan pa. So let's do alternating na lang. If this is solid line, this should be broken. We pass a piercing point, therefore solid. Tapos change tayo ng direction, therefore ito broken line ulit. Tapos pagkatapos dito, change direction ulit, therefore solid ulit tayo dito. Tapos solid, then pass this piercing point, broken ulit. So siya, broken lines. Okay? And we have completed. And ito yung final test class, no? And I highly encourage you to do this test, no? This is parang just a visual test lang. Try to look at the object. Tingnan niyo yung nagawa ng object, itong orientation na to, and see if it makes sense, no? Kung tiningnan niyo siya tapos parang you feel that's parang something is off, no? Kunwari, if I do something like this, no? Kunwari ganyan. Kunwari lang, nagkamali kayo, ganito yung drawing niyo. Parang if you look at it, parang awkward siya, di ba? Parang something is wrong. So whenever you have that na parang initial glance lang or final glance and you have that feeling na something is awkward, no? Then probably something is wrong. Kasi again, ganun yung brains natin nag-work, no? If parang na-detect niya na hindi siya yung expected outcome when in terms of how we view objects in real space, parang magti-trigger siya ng reaction sa brain niyo na no, something is wrong. Parang i-check mo siya. Okay? Some have stronger senses than others. So again, advantage na lang 'yun sa mga iba na strong yung spatial awareness nila, and some have weaker pero made-develop man. So I always encourage na after you get the final answer, try to look at it final glance, tapos check nyo, does it make sense? So if something is telling you parang hindi nagme-make sense yung object na to, so bakit awkward sa tingnan? So there might be something wrong with the object. Okay? So ito. So if I do this, if you look at it, parang ganyan, parang it makes sense to me, no? At least for me, pag nakita ko siya, okay, it could be possible na ganyan talaga orientation. So once I have that, okay na yun. Parang nakikita ko na siya. So let's do the bottom side naman. We do the bottom side. Let's do let's do a check, no? So ano bang gusto natin check? Let's just check. Kunwari ito. Oh, I'm checking if sino yung nasa taas, si 1, 2 ba or si AB. And if I go upwards, si 1, 2 yung una kong tinamaan, no? Because AB is still here. No? So 1, 2 yung una tinamaan here, meaning si 1, 2 yung nasa taas. So if 1, 2 yung nasa taas, therefore, itong AB na to nasa baba and this will be broken line. So with that, I can say na ito, this should be solid. So, solid. Now, with this, dahil solid to, let's do the alternating method. Solid, past a piercing point. So this is hidden. So hidden to. So kung hidden to, dapat solid ito. Dito na part. So that's solid. Alternate tayo. So solid to, hidden dapat to. Past a piercing point, therefore change visibility, solid dapat to. Tapos dito, since nag-change ako ng visibility, hidden na dapat. Okay? Now, let me connect my piercing point para makita. And, kaya pala natin siya unit. Ito, label natin siya as LOI. Natin label LOI. So ito, final glance, let me look at it. It makes sense, no? Parang nag-make sense yung object. Parang itong Mr. Chips na to is piercing this other Mr. Chip na to. Such that lumusot siya dun sa kabilang point. Diba? Okay, hopefully, nag-gets nyo naman yung mga sinasabi ko, class. No? Parang kahit medyo absurd minsan yung mga statements ko. Hopefully, nag-gets nyo siya. And na-practice nyo sa mind nyo. No? So, hopefully, magiging 3D mind yun. Okay? Okay, so that's our yung piercing points method. No? And I'll discuss the last method, which is yung tinatawag natin special cutting plane method. No? So yung special cutting plane method is a method wherein we draw two cutting planes, and from those cutting planes, we can produce 2 points, which when connected becomes the line of intersection. Okay? So etong special cutting plane method, again, the theory is in the module, so I highly encourage na you view the video that I made, no, for this for ES1, tapos para malaman niyo yung kumbaga yung theory behind it. Pero ito again, I'll just show the how it works, no, yung diretso methodical approach lang. Okay? So let's start with yung creation of the two cutting planes, no. So when we create our cutting planes, it doesn't matter, no, parang you can work on the top, you can work on the bottom. It depends on you guys kung ano yung mas comfortable kayo. So let's just do dito na lang sa taas. No? So the cutting plane that we produce is hindi nagmamatter yung orientation niya. No? So I can do my first cutting plane something like that. Let's do, I can do cutting plane something like that. Ganyan. Pwede rin ganyan. So I can do CP1 to label that is cutting plane 1 and this is cutting plane 2. I can do something like that. So hindi siya nagmamatter. It will still provide me with the solution. No? Pero what I usually do is, kasi it's always just easier. No? Minsan, ang ginagawa ko lang is just draw a horizontal line. Kasi parang it seems easier, no? If I do that. For example, ito, draw a horizontal line. Let's label it CP1. Tapos, I draw another horizontal line. Kasi if you slide your ruler, and hindi kailangan perfectly horizontal din siya, no? Hindi naman nagmamatter. Just draw a line that intersects. And by the way, itong special cutting plane, mas appropriate siya for if the planes do not seemingly intersect. Kasi, ito pala, may question pala dito. Can LOI be determined if the planes do not seem to intersect, such as this one? So, yes, yung sagot ko. The answer is yes. And it's yes, because remember that planes here are just segments, no? Parang they are, kumbaga, a portion of an infinite plane. So when we talk about planes talaga, planes are infinite and extensible. No? So if we were to extend this 4, 5, 6, and XYZ, then eventually they will intersect, and that line of intersection can be determined between these two planes. Ang only case lang na hindi sila mag-intersect if of course parallel sila. Tama? Kung parallel tong, ano nangyari? Nagalaw ko yata class. Okay. Wait lang, class. Ano yung nakikita niyo sa studio?
Yung worksheet na po ulit, sir.
Okay. Wait lang. Namatay yung tablet ko. Hindi ko mag-roll. Yan. Mukhang bumalik na. Yan. Hopefully, nangita niyo pa yung screen ko. Okay. So again, dahil extensible sila, dapat makikita natin or kahit hindi seemingly intersecting yung two plane segments, their planes that they represent should have an LOY pa rin. Okay? Okay. So, hopefully that makes sense. No? So, again, ang sinasabi ko kanina is ang only case na wala silang in LOY is if parallel yung two planes. Kasi kung parallel sila, then never dapat sila mag-intersect. Tama? Okay. So, what I like to do again is just to draw a horizontal cutting plane. Doesn't have to be perfectly horizontal. Tapos from there, gawa lang ako ng another cutting plane. Another cutting plane that is parallel to that cutting plane. Kasi, why I do that? Because it's easier, no? Kasi if you do the sliding ruler technique, then automatic from itong CP1 na to, if is-slide nyo yung ruler pababa, makakreate nyo na si CP2 agad. Okay, so I'm using different colors here para mas ma-illustrate ko sa inyo class yung yung needed na lines natin or needed na points. Okay? So the method works like this. No? So if we take, for example, CP1. Okay, so ito. So let's start with CP1 muna. So ito CP1, it has an intersection point here and here. Gagawin natin is project natin downwards. And this is along XZ. So tigil din tayo sa XZ, point XZ. Tama? Tapos ito, body natin. This is along XY. So therefore, ito siya X1. Okay? Now, let's do this one. This is along 4, 5. So, hanggang dito sa hanggang dito sa 4, 5. Tama? Now, ito, this is along 5, 6. Baba natin siya hanggang 5, 6. Okay? So, ito. So, ang gagawin natin is, we connect this line and this line, tapos this line and this line, tapos extend natin siya. Where they intersect is the location of our first point. Okay? So, let me do this one. So, if I draw a line, ito pa ganyan. And I draw another line. Ayan. Extend natin siya. And it meets somewhere dito, no? So, ito siya. It intersects dito. Okay? Ito. So, let's just call this as P1. So it's not actually a piercing point. Technically, hindi siya piercing point, no? Kasi wala namang nagpi-pierce siya. So parang medyo imaginary piercing point siya. Okay? Na, pero let's just call it P1. So P1 signifying na itong point na to comes from itong CP1. Okay? So let's now do CP2 naman. So CP2 from here. So bring it down. That's XZ. So that's XZ dito. And this is ZY. Bring it down. ZY. Dito siya. Tapos itong isa, this is 4-6. So this is 4-6 out here. And ito 5-6. This is 5-6. Dapat naman dito. So let's again connect the lines. So I connect this line. So extend ko lang pagkita. And I'll connect also this line. So it intersects at some point na to. So let's call this point as itong point na to, let's call this as P2. Okay? Okay. So now, itong si P1 and P2, if we connect P1 and P2, we now produce our imaginary LOI. Okay? We call this as an imaginary LOI, no? Kasi parang hindi naman siya yung true LOI for the plane segments. Pero if we were to extend the planes that these plane segments represent, mahanap natin si itong LOI na to. So, if I connect it, let me take it. One. And I can extend it, no? Lagyan ko ng arrowhead. Then the arrowhead here signifies that this is an imaginary LOI such that kumbaga pwede siyang i-extend kasi kung extensible yung plane, and therefore extensible din yung LOI. So ganito natin nililabel si imaginary LOI. Ito. Okay? So just to prove class no na hindi necessary na na parallel si CP1 and CP2, I can create another CP here. No? Let's just say something like that. Okay? Let's create that. Tapos, looking at para lang gumawa ko ng sorry guys. So, para lang imaginary CP na ganyan. Something like that. Okay? So, CP3. Let's say CP3 to. Tapos, let's bring it down. This is along XZ. So, XZ dito. This is along YZ. YZ, so dito, no? YZ. So, it should be here. Okay? Tapos next is ito. Is along 4-5. So, dito. Tapos this is along 5-6. So, dito. 6. Okay? Now, let's try to connect. So, ito. And ito, no? Notice, hindi kayo nang amaze ako. So, ako, notice na si P3, ito, is also in along the LOI na na-create natin. So, which just proves na hindi nagmamatter. So, ano yung ginamit natin cutting plane. We will always, kunwari, yung cutting plane 4 ka, pwedeng nandito lumabas si cutting plane 4, it will still be along LOI. Imaginary LOI. Hindi kayo na-impress? Ako na-impress ako sa sarili ko. Walang nag-react. Ayun, at least nag-react si Ancherin. I'm assuming na na-impress si Ancherin Akalanlores. Anyway, so yun lang. Yun class, no? So, again, hindi nagmamatter when we do cutting plane method. Kahit anong orientation, doesn't really matter. You should produce. You can do multiple cutting planes, pero diba, when we create a line, we only need 2 points. So therefore, minimum lang kailangan natin is 2 cutting planes. And from the 2 cutting planes, makakapag-produce tayo ng LOI. Okay? So, yun lang. Medyo madali yung lesson natin today, no? Isa lang po ang gagawin ng LOI. Isa lang talaga ang LOI. So, wala kayong, kumbaga, when there are two planes, if you extend them, isa lang talaga yung mabubuo yung LOI. Tama? And it makes sense, no? Just try to imagine. Kung i-extend nyo yung isang plane, well, it should, for a certain orientation, it should be the case na isa lang talaga ang LOI na napoproduce mo. Okay? Okay. So, other questions? Relatively easier, I would say easier yung lesson for today, no? And the methods are not that difficult. Ang difficulty lang is pagka your points get lost in all the mix, no? Kasi sobrang dami ng napoproduce. And Ramiel asked, hindi kailangan gumawas ng LOI sa HRP. Hindi naman kailangan. Kailangan lang is pwede kayong gumawa sa FRP, tas project sa taas. By the way, kulang pa pala itong ginawa natin. So, kailangan natin i-project itong LOI natin paakyat. Okay? So, kasi kailangan natin i-produce. No? So, what you can do is, pwede rin ang ginawa nyo is, create kayo ng panibagong CP cutting planes dito sa FRP or pwedeng i-project lang nyo. I-project nyo lang yung already produced na points nyo. So, for example, ito, if I go to itong si P1, itong P1 na to, I can project it upwards, no? And I know it belongs to CP1. So therefore, kung ipo-project ko, and it has the same projection line as this one. So dapat yung blue yung ginawa ko. So pinoject ko pataas, shift, anyway, I can just use this projection line right here. No? So I know that it belongs to P1, therefore, dito siya. This is P1. Tapos let's project P2. P2 is, so P2 is this one. It belongs to CP2, therefore dito siya. So therefore, dapat if I connect the two, ito and ito, and I should probably do a darker line. Okay. So and ito, this is now my LOI projected in the HRP. And if you notice, uh, if you project P3, project natin si P3, no? Ito si P3, project natin siya pataas, it also falls in line. Tama? Dito si CP3, so dapat dito siya. And notice how si P3 also is along the LOI. We just prove again na hindi nagmamatter yung orientation P3. Okay? So again, you only need two cutting planes. No? So dito pinakita ko lang three cutting planes just to show you na hindi nagmamatter yung orientation. Okay? Tapos again, pwedeng galing sa baba, pwedeng galing sa taas. Doesn't really matter. It should give you the same LOI regardless of the technique you use. Pwedeng magkaiba lang yung sagot nyo. Some of you might answer na kunwari dito yung sagot. Kunwari ganyan. Depending on the LOI, yung CP na ginamit, no? Pwede yung iba, ang sagot nila is something like this. Which is the same line lang naman, no? Na magkaiba lang yung, kumbaga yung length na pinili. So, pwede yung iba dahil ito yung ginawa, magiging ganito yung sagot mo. So, it doesn't really matter. Dapat same line pa rin siya if extended. Okay? So, yun. Yun lang. Other questions before we end the session? Upload nyo rin po ba yung annotated worksheet? Ito? Yes. I-upload ko to. Save ko na lang tas tapos upload ko dun sa sync folder natin. Tapos, other questions? Kaya naman, no? Okay, wala nang nagtatanong. So hopefully, you now have, siguro ang mahirap dun sa problem ata is, if I remember correctly, no, yung sa plate nyo ata is solid siya instead of, tama ba? Solid nga ba yun? Pero posible ito yung magpapahirap sa kanya, no? So just try to imagine this class, no? Kunwari lang, may solid kayo, tapos may line. And you are to uh, imagine yung piercing point ng line na to with a solid. Tingin nyo, how would you do this? Ano yung strategy? It's a solid, meaning it's a three-dimensional object. Hindi lang siya plain, solid siya. And gusto natin malaman kung ano yung intersection ng line na to with the solid. So if you're given that problem class, no, a line, and you can imagine this as well, no? A line can only enter a solid or pierce a solid in exactly two locations, no? Yung first location niya is the entry point, second location niya is the exit point. Tama? So to solve this problem, and ito medyo mahirap siya, no? You actually need to check all the planes, no? Kasi hindi mo sure kung pumasok pa siya dito sa itong left plane na to, or pumasok pa siya dito sa top plane, or pumasok pa siya dito sa itong right plane na to. Parang ganun. Hindi nyo alam kasi. So, ang isi-check nyo actually is, isi-check nyo yung line na to, whether it enters the object into this 1, 2, 3, 4, tsaka 5. 5 planes yung isi-check nyo. So, it's line versus 5 planes. So, check nyo yung piercing points. Once you have a piercing point, and you have an entry and exit point. Parang ganun yung pag-solve ng ganitong type of problem when you have a solid. Okay? Pero, hindi ko alam kung nabago ba yung plates. One of the previous plates, no, parang medyo ganun siya, solid yung, pero I don't think ito yung plate niya, parang naiba na ata. Pero in any case, if you were to be given that type of problem sa exam, kunwari, at least familiar kayo kung paano siya isolve. Okay? Other questions? Wala na? If you're good with the lesson, pwede ba react? Thumbs up or something? Okay, thank you. So marami na nag-react. Okay, thank you everyone for taking the time in coming today. And I hope you have a wonderful reading break, no? Kasi magre-reading break na pala tayo. So sana okay yung performance nyo sa long exam mo, tapos makapag-recharge kayo sa reading break, no? And sana masarap din ulam nyo later. Kasi ako gutom na rin. Okay. So that's it for today's lesson, and bye everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you po,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank
Bye,
you
sir.
din.
Thank you po.
Bye.